What's going on, y'all? This is your boy DJ Fastnex with another episode recap of Ahsoka, episode 6. Yo, I gotta tell you, this episode was pretty dope. It had some big shoes to fill from the last episode with going back into the Clone Wars area, so was quite excited to see what was going to happen. Starts off with Ahsoka and Huang talking about just the fact that they're traveling in hyperspace in a whale's mouth, in the space whale's mouth at that, the Purgle. And so, Huang was like, I can honestly say now that I've done everything. And it was so funny. The banter between Ahsoka and Huang, the whole thing about the different stories that were told when they were young, about, just the way the galaxy was, and then the fact that, she had something to tell him about the fact that she saw Sabine basically go willingly, to the other planet, and they didn't take her. It was showing that it was troubling to Ahsoka, and Huang was trying to explain to her that the Force guides you and it shows you things, but it doesn't give you all the answers. And he was like, basically for Sabine, she might have, and basically they were saying for people to make the right and wrong choices. In this case, for Sabine, she probably only had one choice, and that was to go and do this for the sake of just going to find a friend, see if he's still alive, and just just the whole point. And so Ahsoka kind of was feeling some type of way, so she told Huang to go ahead and tell her one of the stories. And it starts off as in a galaxy so far, far away, in a galaxy far, far away. That was pretty dope. That's a nice intro to this episode. So we come up to Sabine in the jail cell, which now I'm like, yes, you're stupid. You're stupid. Because now maybe if she would have showed up and she was kind of like part of the situation, like if the episode would have started off with her like being alongside them, as not as a prisoner, basically. So the fact that she was in there in a holding cell, locked up, I'm like, see, you're stupid. You're stupid. This should tell you right now that he might have some type of plans to go ahead and give you what you want, but at the same time, it look like you might not get what you want because he got you locked up. So the whole time when I saw it, I was like, you stupid. You're stupid. Like, why? Why would you do that? Why did you even accept that? You could have waited. You could have found some other way. So what happened was, she's in there. She's talking to Balin. Balin is like kind of telling her, chill out. I did say, I'm going to, like, she's like, we had problems. I mean, we had a deal. And Balin was like, yeah, he kind of just giving her this look like, yeah, shut up, girl. Like, you messed up. Like, he was even looking at her acting like, you messed up. You shouldn't even did that or whatever. So what happened was, when he walks off, Morgan is like, yo, are you sure she's gonna be okay for this situation? Like, are you gonna live up? Are you gonna still stay up to the deal that you have for her? And he was like, yeah, she'll be useful eventually. And so we come up out of the hyperspace with them, and they're in front of the planet Peridia, which everybody thought that was the star system, but actually it was just the planet's name. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's Jupiter, acting stupid, right? Because the rings. Not knowing what those rings was going to represent until later on in the episode. So they're flying in, they're having their talk about just the whole point of is Sabine really good to have around. So they're flying in and they're talking about this is where the Purgle come to die. And as they're going through the rings, you see that the rings is actually the cemetery, the the place where they go and they decay, and all that is just bones and dust from the Purgle themselves. I was like, wow, that is crazy. So they go down into the the droids tell them that they're there, and they basically say that it's a signal being sent from the planet. So they go to the signal. They go down and they land. Well, I'm sorry, they get halfway there, and then a little ship comes off of the little hyperspace ring or whatnot, and they fly down into the atmosphere to the planet to kind of similar setup as on the other planet where you had all the old statues from the Night Sisters. So you see that and you're like, okay, cool, whatever. And then you see three Night Sisters, which are mothers. I guess they consider them mothers of the thing, and they are, I guess, I don't, I I can't tell you exactly what they would be considered, but when they talked to Morgan, it was like Night sister of Dathomir. So like they acknowledge her as one from Dathomir, and that was cool too. So they do this whole thing, and they're talking to them and telling them how, like, we're glad you made it. You got our messages, blah 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 blah, and they were like, this one stench of Jedi, and they were talking about Sabine, and which throws me off about that is Sabine. I'm telling you, man, they bet not give Sabine no type of powers, because she should have already had them by now. If she was ever supposed to get them, she should have had him by now because of how long she's been supposedly. Well, when she first initially started training in the Force, to now, not when she started training with Ahsoka, because she was training with Kanan in that first suit. So if she was to ever get anything, it would have happened probably when she first started training with Ahsoka, and so. But apparently they sensed the fact that Jedi was all on her, which was weird to me because they didn't sense the same thing on Balin and his and Shin. So I'm like, why don't they feel it on them? Because I mean, I know they're not technically Jedi, but at this point, Sabine isn't either. Like, so how would they smell it on her or sense it on her? So yeah, basically they talk trash. They tell everybody, Sabine, we had to go meet up with. Well, I'm sorry, they were waiting for Thrawn to show up, but they were saying that Sabine can't be here. She could wait in isolation. So they had these little robots, which was pretty dope. Little robots that had the lasers around them that actually like locked her up and made her walk down into a certain area. So that was pretty cool. I was like, okay. So now I think they did like a little landscape view, and I thought that they may have shown the Loaf Wolves. I thought that's what it was, but then when you see the creatures later on in the show, it might have been those creatures. Cause yeah, now I'm thinking about why would Loaf Wolves be on this planet? I don't even know why I was thinking about that. But they did when they were showing them highlight the movie, it looked like they were Loaf Wolves. So yeah, so Sabine is down there, and now they're waiting on Thrawn to come. So Thrawn shows up in a Star Destroyer. So that means they still have some remnants of the Empire with them. Which, I mean, if you go back to that last episode of Rebels, when Ezra took them off, it was a lot of ships. It was about 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken, that the whales took into hyperspace and kind of took to that planet or that area. So to me, I wouldn't even be surprised if there was another Star Destroyer around somewhere. But I mean, it also has been so long, so they might have taken parts and kind of like hack some stuff together to make one good, complete one. And so they show them there, and it's so funny how when Thrawn shows up, you have this big fleet of stormtroopers. I was like, yo, and this the picture down below. I was like, dang, so they still, I'm like, how are they still alive? Like how are they eating? Like, what was going on? And so this is the thing that is tricky, which, I mean, knowing your history with Star Wars and the Rebels and even like Clone Wars at some point, the Night Sisters are they are witches. They could bring things and people, but they can bring people back to life, even themselves. So as far as ghosts or just zombies type things, right? So a lot of people that I heard was thinking that maybe all of these stormtroopers are brought back to life. They're reanimated stormtroopers, and they're all dead, for better lack of saying it. Now I would kind of say yes, But then when you look at certain things, like because they made sure to go through all the like a lot of the stormtroopers to show you that they hadn't had no replacement of armor. The suits had to be patchworked, and you can kind of see where everybody's kind of suit had different patches in it. Especially that one guy who had the face, which I don't understand. First of all, I don't understand where he got the material to make that. Second of all, I don't know why he wanted to make a real face on the stormtrooper mask. Let him have it. He did seem kind of ominous. I ain't gonna lie. When they first showed him, I was like, "That's Ezra right there," and they just don't know it. And it's gonna be like it's gonna be like a real like eye opener that he was the guy in the suit. But when you get to the end of the episode, you be like, okay. So yeah, basically they show him and he goes and he talks about, being surprised that the Night Sisters were able to get in contact with Morgan and get her here so they could go back and get back into the Empire and whatnot. Well, to that galaxy to basically bring back the Empire. He also says that he heard that they brought a prisoner, and he was trying to find out why and who was it. So that's when Baylan comes back out and says he really thinks she could be a help to the cause. And then he told her who she was, and he was like, well, first of all, when he said Baylan, he said, "Oh, you were a person of the Clone Wars. I kind of remember you." He said, "But I never talked to you. I've heard of you, but never really had interactions with you." And then he was like, "But Sabine, I know who that is. It's nice to see a familiar face." And so that right there threw me off even more. He was saying, if he's saying it's nice to see a familiar face, that means that Ezra is dead. And he's just out there in the ether or whatever. And he's not saying anything. So they brought Sabine up and she has a talk with Thrawn. Thrawn's like, "Oh, nice to see you, blah, 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 blah." And basically was saying he's going to hold up to the dude's deal in the bargain, basically. Let her go off and find Ezra. And she's like, "Where is he?" He was like, "Well, to be honest with you, he's probably out there somewhere on this world. I can't guarantee you that he's living, but he's out there. That's what he ran off to. And I don't know exactly where he's at." So she was like, okay. They gave her weapons, gave her a little animal, little rat animal, doggy animal to ride, and she took off. Thrawn basically tells Baylan, like, look, give her a little bit of distance, and then you and your apprentice go follow her, because then once she finds Ezra, take care of both of them. And then when they leave, he basically tells Morgan that, "I don't know about him. He might be on some other stuff, but if he gets in my way, or if he doesn't get back in no time, he could get left on this planet too." Like Thrawn is like, I'm true to my word, but at the same time, I'm not waiting for nobody. That was cool too. I was like, okay. So then you get to this whole scene where Sabine is actually traveling, and she gets scared off by some raiders. Well, I'm sorry, she gets hit by some raiders, and she fights them off as the dog runs off. And this is the part that kind of threw me for a loop. Well, the part more of, they showed that she's good. Like, they keep trying to specify how good she is without force abilities and even lightsaber training. Like, without doing lightsaber training or using the lightsaber. And I'm sorry, boy, them people suck. The fact that she was still able to block the laser beams, the shots from her face with her arm because of the armor. I'm like, yo, come on. The Beskar, I was like, come on, yo. That is crazy. It's true, they could do that, but it's so funny. It's like, how is she able to catch it and they still can't hit her? And like, because it's more than just one of them. So at this point, I was thinking like one of the raiders was Ezra. You know what I'm saying? Like what's really going on? And I still kind of think it is, because I want to say one of them got away. He kind of stopped and looked, and he kind of got away. I might be wrong. But it looked like he kind of got away and just left. So, yeah, they do that whole thing. and she beats them all, and then you see the dog come up, and she's like, and she's talking to this dog, and I'm like, I want to be like, yes, that's what they would do. That's what she would do in that situation. But usually with something they had, rapport with, something that they dealt with, a thing that they've, been around, like an animal that's been around, not an animal that's new. So the fact that the dog even understood what the hell was going on, and she was like, "Nah, get away from me, man. You left me. How you gonna leave me like that?" And then they kind of made up and everything. So she got back on him and they started riding around. But then he found the turtle. I want to say they're turtle aliens, but I really want to be like, those shells or the rocks are just rocks that they carry around. I don't think that's part of their body, but I may be wrong. I'm not, I don't know what it is basically. And the fact that it was scared because they thought the dog was going to eat him, was scared that they thought she was going to kill him because she was probably part of the empire that was there. And when he saw the sigil on her armor, he was like, they was like, "Oh, you're just like, there's one person we know," which was Ezra. So she kept trying to understand what he was saying. He wasn't, speaking alien languages. She didn't know what was going on. But then it was like they were kind of showing us that she understood them but didn't understand them. And I was like, what the hell? So basically they take her back to their village, and in this village, this is where you find that it's more of them, and they have an actual colony set up in this area. And that's when she runs into Ezra, and they have their long-awaited reunion, which is pretty cool. And Ezra, the guy plays Ezra. Let's see, what is his name? I just saw it too. Eamon Asafani. I'm saying that all type of wrong. Please don't be mad at me because I'm saying his name wrong. But yeah, the actor who plays Ezra, he has Ezra from Rebels, but then he doesn't, and it's like he's trying to be Ezra teen age Ezra, but he's not grown man Ezra, so it kind of doesn't play right. But then he's still kind of witty like Ezra, so it kind of worked for me too at the same time. So I was like, okay, pretty cool. And then their banter between each other, and the fact that he was like, well, I'm glad. I knew I could count on you, but it would have been nice if you would have, you sure took your time to get here. And she was like, well, you didn't leave coordinates. You didn't tell us where you was going. He's like, oh, I didn't know where I was going. And it was just so funny how that whole banter basically kind of came back, and that kind of did throw me back into, Rebels, because that's kind of how they were. And so, like, the fact that he was asking questions about how did he get there, how did she get there to find him, and she didn't want to say anything because she knew how bad the situation was. And then we go back to was it Thrawn? They were all getting ready to get on the ship, and it was almost time to leave. And that's when I think he had said the thing about, leaving Balin and all of them. If things come, if it comes down to it, they could get left too. Like, and I think Balin has a conversation with Shin, and basically tells like how he grew up, and this is the place of dreams, and it always was like a fairy tale to us. We didn't believe it was real. And then the fact that in my world, my whole world was taken away when the end of the Clone Wars, because that's when Order 66 happened. And he kind of went off, and he started thinking about different ways and different ideals to have, instead of just being straight up Sith or straight up Jedi. And his whole point was saying that everything is always, he says, a cycle. Everything always rises and then falls, rises and falls. And he said what he wants to do is start at the beginning. So he was kind of content with being able to stay on this planet to find out the solution to the problem, to stop the cycle. And he always said, let's start at the beginning, which was on this planet apparently. So that's his idea. So I feel like they may leave him on the planet Eventually, maybe, because if you didn't know, the actor Ray Stevenson, he passed away um, shortly after they finished film. Well, not, I don't know if it's shortly after they finished filming, but he passed away before the show came out. And so, like, if he doesn't die in the show, and they actually set up a good like story plot for him, it's going to be kind of sad because now we're not going to get this actor back in that role. Because to be honest with you, as stupid as some of the stuff that he's doing sounds, it actually is a pretty good story plot. It's different. It's not a Grey Jedi situation, which we are probably kind of having with Ahsoka, and it's not quite straight up turn to to the dark side. It's something kind of new. So I kind of want to see where they want to go with that. I hope it's not as simple as just being a Grey Jedi or a Sith or just a different type of Jedi in general. I hope it's like I hope it makes sense even for a person who might be going off their rocker. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get any more of Ahsoka. I know a lot of people are pissed about that because we were watching a show called Ahsoka and she wasn't even in this episode like that. But I'm not gonna lie, that first scene with Ahsoka was pretty dope. Like, it was a nice little just. This show, beginning to end, each episode, it feels, even though it's short, feels like I'm watching a Star Wars episode movie. Out of even like Obi-Wan didn't feel that way. Even the Mandalorian didn't feel that way. Definitely Boba Fett didn't feel that way. So the fact that we get this thing that's actually the closest, let's see. Well, I guess you kind of count Boba Fett in a sense, but I would rather say outside of Obi-Wan, this show is the closest to the source material of like what's been going on of canon per se as possible, because it's kind of still a straight up continuation of stories that we already know, and not just someone showing up to show you that they're still alive from a story that we read in canon. It's more just like a continuation of canon. And so I like that whole aspect of it. But yeah, I will say this is a pretty good episode. Hopefully it gets better from here, like it did from the last one, the other one. I don't feel like this episode, this show itself, as of right now, is a waste of time. I'm actually enjoying it. I kind of still want Rosaria to do a little, like, put a little bit more emotion into some stuff, but maybe this is just how they want her to play it out for this particular show, and then in the future we may see old school Ahsoka, like as far as how she is with people and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it. If you guys have any questions, concerns, you like you like what you see, go ahead and hit the like button. Have questions, concerns, go ahead and put it down below in the comment section. I will respond. If you want to learn about any more things I'm doing, any more reviews, any things like that, go ahead and make sure over there, make sure that you look up DJ Fastnex on all social media platforms, and that way you can find out more of what's going on in my life. Until next time, guys, I'll see you soon.